Hello everyone and welcome to Spiritual Saturday Live. This is a live show we do every Saturday at 11 a.m. Pacific, which is 2 p.m. Eastern. Don't ask me about the other time zones because I don't know. 1 second here, I'm just going to pause myself. You heard me double for a second. I'm really excited about the topics today, but before I get into it, I just want to make sure that all of you can hear me okay. And if you can't, I'm going to move my microphone over a little bit here. So good to see you all here today. Oops, there we go. But I'm feeling really springy today. Are you guys feeling springy? And if so, let me know, and let me know where you're coming in from live today. I'm excited to answer your chat questions, and we've got some pretty, how should we say, what's the word for it? Not polarizing topics, but stirring topics today. Okay, so let's go in here and just make sure. Shelly G, sound is good? Okay, perfect. Then I can just get started. Remind me to do the sound effects today. Okay, so if somebody does a super chat or a sticker, just remind me to do the sound effects because I love it. And also I want to pull your questions onto the screen. Without further ado, let's get into what we're going to talk about today. And the topic, the primary talking point is the 3 misconceptions that keep us from experiencing God on a deeper level, on a more personal level, on a one-to-one level with God. So why have I chosen that topic as the main talking point? Well, that information came to me, and I like to share my spiritual awakening journey with you. And I know that a lot of you are experiencing the same things. So I think that it would be great to talk about this. And the things that I will be... Thank you for the super chat so early in. Let's see, let's pull that over. Let me see the chat area and pull that over. Okay, let me get to that. Chat is here. And there we go. Hey, look, Crispy's here. Pamela's here. Shara's here. Cynthia, hey, you made it this time. Cynthia from Seattle. Craig is here. You've been here regularly. Great to see you again, Craig. ASMR is actually one of the questions I'm going to be answering today is your question about music. And then we have Nico. Wow, Josie's here. If you're new, say hello. So happy to be here, Josie says. Great. And again, thank you, Shelly G. Shelly G is the moderator and has been here since day one. A lot of you have been here for a long time. And Iran Williams is here, or Iran Williams, James, Modak. Hi, James, good to see you again. Allison's here, Cheryl, Pamela. Okay, so it's good that we're letting a few people come in before we start the discussion because I think that it's going to be, what do you call that? I don't know why the word escapes me. I thought about it all week long, and then I got here and I forgot the word, but that's okay. I'll remember it along the way. Some other things that we're going to talk about today are answering audience questions. Can we reincarnate on other planets? I thought that was a really good question. We can answer that. And then explain what HSP means. So highly sensitive people, empaths. We're going to talk a little bit about that as well. I think that deserves its own show. And then we're also going to talk about, is there music on the other side? Hey, while we're just sitting here, why don't I answer that question first? So one time I had a dream, and in that dream, what happened was I was holding on to the hand of what I now know is to be an angel. And I really couldn't tell whether it was a man or a woman. I was just holding their hand, and they were singing. And I thought, my goodness, that's the most amazing music I've ever heard. And then the angel looked at me and said, silly, we kind of like, didn't say silly, but kind of like that intention. No, we all sing like that. I'm like, what are you talking about? We all sing like that. And he said, over there. So we started to walk towards over there, and I could hear the most amazing music coming from that direction. But as soon as we got there, he said, you can't come. Don't worry. I'll visit you again, but you can't come over there. And basically over there was the other side. So yes, there is amazing music there. And ASMR was asking, can you be inspired to make music here on earth by tapping in and tuning into the other side? And my answer to you is yes. And David Ditchfield, he is an NDEer that I interviewed. He's a perfect example of that because he did not know how to play orchestral music, and now he conducts it and writes music. And if you want to check that out, what I'll do is I'll post it below. David Ditchfield's link to our discussion about his new acquired artistic capabilities of writing and composing music. I believe that we can all tap into the other side. I'm really excited at that prospect. Jim is here, Pimsol's here, Mary's here, Victoria. Wow, Christina's here and Ingrid. Great. Okay, let's check out another question here. Actually, can we reincarnate on other planets? That's going to become apparent once we talk about the main topic, which is the 3 misconceptions that keep us from experiencing God. I want to preemptively let anyone know that I recognize that this requires really opening up your mind, and I'm going to ask you just to listen and try not to be offended. And if you agree, let me know, because I think it will be great. It'll be great to hear your feedback about this, because it's something that has been brewing and growing inside of me, and I finally got that answer and I want to share it with you. So let's start talking about the 3 misconceptions of God. I've got them written down here on my notes, just so I didn't forget, because as they were coming to me, I would write them down. And the way that it comes to me is I could be anywhere doing anything, and suddenly the information will come down. And oftentimes, some of you are so kind and you give compliments, but I have to be honest, they can't really come to me. I'm just the messenger. So the messages come through, and then I just share the topics. I'm feeling very spring-like today. So much spring colors. Okay, so let's get to the first one. The first misconception that keeps us from experiencing a deep relationship with God is that we try to localize God. So we try to say that God is there or here or somewhere where we're going to meet God at some point in time when we are good enough, and when we die, or at a specific date or time. And it just isn't true, because God is infused in the fabric of every single thing, every single being, and the entire universe. So wherever you are, at whatever point that you're at, you can be assured that God is there. However, when we localize God, we create a problem for ourselves. I just want to explain this. We think that we are alone, and we don't understand what God is, which leads perfectly. It's a perfect segue into the next point, and that is that we refuse to acknowledge God for who God is. So not only do we want to separate God and localize him, God is there, God's in heaven, God is on that plane, God is in this dimension, God is within, whatever it is that where we want to localize God, we don't realize that God is in every person and everywhere. The next one is that we want to personify God. So we want to say that God looks like this, God acts like this, God is one being, but God permeates all beings. So let's talk about this for a quick sec. I always know when the chat doesn't come rolling in fast that people are thinking. So let's talk about this for a moment. If we recognize that each living being contains God, I believe that we would behave totally differently if we understood that God lived in the next person to you. Now, it's easy for us to see, to love our children, to love our nieces and nephews, to love our parents, to love our relatives, our aunties, our friends, our spouses. It's easy for us to love those people because we feel obliged and we have personified those people as people who are important to us. But what's more difficult is to love other people that we don't know, other people who are over there or not in your home or in a different city or in a different something different. It's very difficult for us to do that. And as soon as we understand that God lives in everyone, one major thing right away that comes to mind is the mourning. Like, how could we look? I'm on your side. Don't get me wrong. I know this is very thought-provoking, but imagine if we could love everyone when we lost one person, one loved one. If we could embrace all the loved one and all the potential, it wouldn't be so harsh. But the problem is we stick to this very small, isolated group that we localize, and we decide that's the only place I'm going to love. That's the only place I'm going to get love. That's the only place I'm going to deposit my love, and everybody else is discounted from that. James says, the one difficulty I see that everyone else doesn't realize that God is within us. Right, Reverend Jim, you're absolutely right. So let me just drag that here. And the problem is when we don't recognize that God is within us, what happens is that we start treating people poorly, and then we wonder why bad things happen, or we don't trust people, or we're not having a great time, or that, all the calamities that are happening right now are just a reflection of the lack of understanding that God exists not only in each one of us, but in every living being. So let's continue on just for a moment. I'm really going to go deep on this one. The next point is that I just want to we refuse to acknowledge and receive love from others as well. So we only want to receive love from the people that we know and trust. We don't want to know and trust anyone else, generally speaking, because we're suspicious, because we experience a lot of, which in part is a valid point, because when you don't know someone else, or when you don't understand a different culture, a different person. Thanks for the super chat, John Parnell. I appreciate that. We can get that up on the screen. If you have any questions when you do a super chat, please go ahead and post them, because that's a great time to do that, and I'll be able to see them, because when it comes up for me, it's super bright and I can see it. Thank you. Okay, question that Iran Williams said: do our loved ones and pets watch over us in heaven? Love from Los Angeles. What a sweet question. Well, I will carry on with what I was talking about, but I'd like to answer that question for you, Iran Williams. Yes. So again, when we realize that every pet we ever had in this lifetime, in other lifetimes, are all there for us, every single one of us is there for us. And even though we might not know a soul today, we might have known that soul yesterday, or maybe we will interact with them tomorrow. And each pet and every loved being is all going to be there for you when you move into different dimensions. However, it depends on which dimension, which vibration. You'll go to the dimension according to your vibration. So will you see them again? Most likely, yes, because if you had a very strong vibrational love connection with that pet, yes. However, you know how you love your pet so much right now, whether it's a dog or cat. My dog's just right over there, sitting there. I love him to bits. But you probably loved other dogs or cats that way too. And if not in this lifetime, in another lifetime. So really, we should have the mindset. Oh, I'm sorry, Christina, that you miss your dog. We really should have the mindset of loving all animals, all pets. Sometimes we favor pets because, like, I favor my pet because he has a personality type that really resonates with me and I'm with him every day. But when you really think about it, all animals and pets deserve love. Yeah, I'm sorry, Christina, for your loss. Craig says, I frequently encounter former pets and cats in my dreams, and I give good credence to my dreams. Yes, me too, Craig. And most recently I had a dream of my dog Pootie. I used to call him because he was a poodle, and my nickname for him was Pootie. And then I saw a little black and white kitten, and I thought, who's that black and white kitten? And I remembered later, after the dream, days later, that I had a little black and white cat that had died when I was 8, and that cat was there. Shelley G says, in God we live, move, and have our being. Yes. Shira, I have had amazing dreams. I asked my mother to visit me because I was having a hard time. That very night she came to my dream and kissed and hugged me and said she loved me. Oh, wow, and missed me. That is amazing. And you know what was really cool about what you just said was when I was having a hard time. Because those hard times are the times when the veil gets pierced from dimension to dimension, and our loved ones come to us because they know we especially need them. We're calling to them through our soul's cry, and they can hear that, and they come. And those are our loved ones who have passed, are angels we know by name. And then there's angels that we don't know by name. Perhaps they were our mother or father in another lifetime or child. We just have to kind of remove this misconception that this is the only life you've ever had, and this is the only being or the only pet you've ever had, because we have had many. And good for you, Shira One, that your mom came to you. And truth be told, the times where I've had the most amazing dreams have been hard times in my life, where my dreams have reinstilled my faith in life and in the universe and in God. Although my faith in God has been pretty strong and steady. You're welcome, Iran. Okay, so let's get back to those misconceptions of why we don't experience God on a more deep level. Okay, so the third one is a lack of gratitude for God. What did you say, Silvia? Yes, a lack of gratitude for God. So today I want you to think about the day. There's probably the sun was in the sky. Maybe if you're in Europe, it's nighttime now, but the sun was in the sky, it came up. There's oxygen in the air. We live on a beautiful planet, which in and of itself is miraculous, that we're flying and hurtling through space at dizzying speeds. And we're all here on this planet together, and we're here for one another. And so God provided for us in such an amazing way for this particular experience, where we have this amazing earth. Everything happens consistently on a steady basis, and we have 7.8 billion people to love us if we all choose to love one another. And yet we keep looking for God in that localized space that isn't here, it's somewhere else, and we personify that individual as not being in other people, but being someone separate from us. And I believe when we come to the realization that we can locate God within one another and within all living beings and within the exact dimension that you're in, I think that when you can do that, you can have heaven on earth, and you come to that realization. But until that day, we will continue to take advantage of the earth and use it use it up quicker than it can regrow and re-stimulate. We're not respecting that is where God lives, in all living things and everything. So how can we expect to have a deep connection with a God that gives us everything that we need right here and now and not appreciate it? And that is why gratitude is so important. That is the utmost, most perfect reason for gratitude, because when you show gratitude, you're thanking God for God's gifts, the gift of life, your very consciousness. The very fact that you are conscious, awake, and capable is a gift from God. Not to mention the fact that we are living on a very habitable planet, which allows us to learn and grow and have experiences too. Let me answer some questions. Eddie, if God, the author, is world, how can I show him gratitude if he is responsible for Stalin? Okay, so a lot of people say that, Eddie, and I'm going to be very compassionate. Sometimes I'm impatient when people bring that up, because Stalin and Hitler, these are exceptions to the rule. Out of 7.8 billion people, we have very few people who are that disillusioned and so filled with anger and rage, that they would unleash that on humanity. They are the embodiment of everything, but I will explain, and I will explain patiently. Those individuals are receivers of the culmination of all the negativity that we all contribute to it. That really irritates people when I say that. Every time you slight someone, hurt someone, have ill will from someone, that energy is real. Those words are real. The energy is real. I even made a full video on it. It goes up into an energy field, and there are those who are very susceptible to it, and they have a lot of anger, and they feel very hurt. They collect all of it, and then they unleash devastation on this earth. Some people unwittingly do it, and some people purposefully do it. So when you tell me about 3 or 4 or 5 or even 10 people who are completely out of whack compared to 7.8 billion, I'm not saying it's not valid. I'm just saying that as a humanity, I think we're doing pretty good in terms of being good people. Generally, and I wouldn't have said this years ago, but generally speaking, people will love you and people want to love you. It's just that they feel hurt and they don't trust. So the goal is to demonstrate God within you so that you can change the world, be the change. By the way, I've been thinking about making t-shirts with that slogan on it. So when we think about these, we fixate on 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 people who have done horrific things. And when we fixate on them, thank you for the super chat, Josie. That is very nice. I'm going to put it right up here. I appreciate that. So when we fixate on those individuals who have done those horrific things and we lose our faith or we subscribe to it, there are 2 things that need to happen. Don't, because there are so many more good people than there are bad people. And 2, understand that we turn people into our whipping boys. We turn certain people into this scourge of, do you know, back in the day in history, if somebody said or did something that was out of line with what was culturally correct, they would stone them and they would just hate them. And if you recall, Jesus said, he who is without sin cast the first stone. I'd like to explain that that's what he meant. Like when we isolate these horrific actions of these people and say that was the only person who did it, even the nicest people on earth have had some negative thoughts, and it's important for us to forgive, move on. If we keep stuck there, it's an excuse to be angry, sad, disillusioned, mad, and not have faith. If we do the opposite and find the goodness in the neighbor who stopped for us, the neighbor who pulled our garbage can in, the person at the grocery store who smiled at you, the loving eyes of a puppy, if we look at the things that where God is, if we are looking for God, we will find God. And the more you look, the more you will find God. Okay, so let's take a look. Sorry, it seems I wasn't being spiteful. No, not at all, Eddie. Eddie, I just want you to know, I'll say it once and finally, I didn't think you were being spiteful at all. If you're here in this chat, it means you belong here. And this is my community. This is our community. This is the spiritual community where we welcome questions. And that is a question that does come up. It does upset me a little, and I'll tell you why. Because I feel like we need to be focusing on where God is rather than where God isn't. If we want to grow and cultivate God, we have to put our mind there, and we have to be leaders and demonstrators of what God wants for us. But if we localize God and put him over there, that's a good person, that's God. That's a bad person, that person has no God. What happens is we have that polarity that we have on earth right now. You could almost split it in half with one side thinks one way and the other. And you know what that is? What that starts? That starts things like wars, starts things like, anger. And we don't need any of that. We don't have to have it. We don't have to live like that. We can live so much better. Okay, so that gratitude for all the positive things that come up. I want to talk about that for a moment. So in my neighborhood, where I live is quite remote. And a lot of people are discovering it because it is so beautiful. And there's a lot of trees here. And so the trees are going and the wildlife is going. And I don't want to say a sad story, but it illustrates nicely what I'm talking about. When we see something nice, we go and we take everything from it and we impose our will on nature, we impose our will on people, we impose our will on animals, and it's not helping us. It's not working out for us. And if we cut down every single tree, we cut down the source of oxygen for our body, which is ridiculous. But somehow we just lose our minds and we're doing the most atrocious things to God, which is infused in everything on earth. So when you're looking for God and you're abusing God's gifts and God's presence, then we have unhappiness and we're continually looking, where is God? Well, God is there. And then we start to turn God into a religion of some place, of some time, and some principles and notions when God's right here. Okay. Hello, Silvia from the UK. Area says, I'm just going to say Area. Shelley G sends a heart. Craig, and forgive ourselves for having the occasional negative thought. Yes. The quicker you can forgive yourself, the quicker you can find God again. And when you forgive yourself, you're letting go of those negative thoughts. Yeah, okay, I had a negative thought. Okay, let it go and don't hang on to it. It's when we fixate. And usually we fixate on someone else. So our negative thought is usually like that person, those people, and that party, and that, this and that. And what happens is it actually turns into something. Understand that everything you see is a manifestation of what you truly desire and believe within you. That's another thing that really ruffles feathers. So instead of letting it ruffle your feathers, become a master manifester, become a leader, become the change you want to see, become a light. I'm not saying act like perfect. I'm saying be perfectly you. Use your talents. Raise the vibe. Create opportunities for joy. Create happiness. Imagine if we all did that in unison. You know what would happen? Heaven on earth. That's exactly what would happen. Heaven on earth. Okay, and then James says, it's always a minority of evil people who cause the problems and not the majority. Yeah, so James, yes, but I want to make sure that I reiterate, those people are the embodiment. They are the embodiment of all of the collective thoughts. We need to take responsibility. As soon as we take responsibility for understanding that in a society, when there is somebody who is that not adjusted and they haven't been loved to pieces or helped or fixed or noticed or cured, though that's the problem of all of society, not just one person, not just one family, not just one parent, but we are all one family. And again, this isn't just saying altruistic things. Literally, if you trace our DNA back, we come from one small area and we migrated out of it. We're literally all related. So that person who we think is the worst person on earth is also part of our human race and who we are. Therefore, we need to forgive and move on and never let it happen again. And if you really don't want those things to live on, then the most important thing is to fixate on doing the opposite. If you're going to fixate on anything, fixate on finding God in everything, especially yourself. It is so empowering to understand that you are the co-creator of the reality that you see and of creation in general. Creation in general. And we need to have gratitude for the things that are working for us. Like this morning, I made this tea with clean water that came right out of my tap. That's my lipstick on there. Clean water that came right out of my tap. The sun came up. I'm alive. I have consciousness. And even when I leave my body, I will still have consciousness. We've had, thousands and thousands of people who have been very vulnerable and shared their near-death experience stories. You've had people like me who share their dreams, which are actual experiences and not just dreams, that come here to share it with you. We have YouTube that we can create communities with. We have live streaming. If you don't have someone to love right now, you can easily find someone to love and that will love you. There are so many opportunities when we open our soul to that. Okay, Jim says, Craig, or bad at it, causing more stress, chilling out needs to be taught in schools. Okay, I must have missed that. Indeed, Jim, we're really good at it. There's a conversation within a conversation happening. Basically, yeah. So I'm going to go back to my talking points for a moment. So one of the people said, why don't you ever talk about UFOs? So I'm doing it right now. I'm going to share this with you. So hold on to I don't normally share this because the reason I don't is, truth be told, I don't want people to misconstrue. I'm already talking about talking to God. I'm already talking about seeing everything in God and everything else. But I will share a couple of dreams that I had, which were highly enlightening for me. So I went into my dream, and suddenly I found myself in what looked like an airport. But this airport was underwater, it was underwater, basically. And I got into this vehicle in my dream, and we were moving at such speeds that I felt nauseous. And I felt a hand touch my arm and said, it's okay, Silvia, it'll just be very short. And then once that was done, I noticed that there were about 6 people there with me, and we were traveling throughout the planetary systems, and they were explaining things, and it was a lot of fun. The one I remember the most was that there were 2 suns in that system, and they were talking about, and I was asking question after question, like what's going to happen to the Earth, and I'm worried about the Earth and this and that, and they were assuring me that the Earth was going to be fine, however, that the principles based on which the Earth and all planets and stars work on is that they regenerate, which means that they have to be destroyed somehow or another, and then they regenerate. Not today. I don't want anybody to freak out and worry, but everything reincarnates, so to speak. The word reincarnate is a misnomer because mean do it again, carne mean flesh. So planets don't exist in the flesh, but they do exist, and black holes come around and they clean them up and demolish them, and they come out the other side as new materials for new regrowth, just like us. Those tunnels that we talk about, the near-death experiencers talk about, tunnels of light that are swirling, those are, I believe, our own black holes that take us and recycle us, and we don't disappear. We still have our consciousness, but we become light beings, and then we choose whether we want to come back to the Earth, or perhaps I believe that there are hierarchies of beings that help us with our growth. I've also been on sojourns where I've seen classrooms, and one quite interesting one was when I found myself in a classroom, and there was about 200 people in it, and there was about 3 instructors. And they were all teaching about cures for cancer. One was talking about how mushrooms, and I'm not talking about those mushrooms, I'm talking about regular mushrooms, help with the immune system. And they were talking, I was like, am I really here? I was like, is this really happening? This was before all those mushroom sort of cures and stuff were coming out. And these dreams I had about the planetary sojourns and them explaining black holes was before they even photographed a black hole. And so do I believe that we exist on other planes and planets? I mean, come on, you guys. Like, the universe is massive. And first of all, let's acknowledge that we're on a rock that's spinning itself through space that is all swirling around a black hole. So if we look at it right there, it's not implausible to think that this is a miracle that this is happening. But this happens all over the universe. We haven't found it yet, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist, and it doesn't mean that we can't go there. I know I'm really going out there, but that's what it is. So Eviatar says, I really don't understand why to talk about those people in extreme negativity. Most of us live an average life. Yeah, right. Going back to talking, we need to let go of those things because, when we fixate on negative stuff, we really have to look within. Why are we thinking about that? Why are we concerned about that? And usually it's because our brain has been filled with, or our soul, with negativity versus positivity. Okay, Craig said, many a fool, many foci of lives all happening now. Oh, okay. So, facets maybe? Craig. So yes, many facets of life are happening right now. I mean, if we understood how outlandish it was, we would be shocked. Here, let me just give you an explanation. Number one, there are multidimensional existences happening right now. Not only is there this universe, but there are multi-dimensional universes, and in the realm of all possibilities, we could be living multiple existences of right now. But for this little pea brain that we have here on Earth, and the limited, I don't mean that derogatorily, I just mean the limited knowledge that we have of it, of the possibilities and the realms that exist. I mean, I think it would be almost hard to live a life knowing every single part of existence. Therefore, our consciousness, our being, streams into one stream of focus so that we can clearly live out an experience. But once we're done with this life experience, we join back with the global consciousness, with the universal consciousness. And that's why you hear people saying, I felt love. I felt like I knew everything. I felt like every question I ever had was answered. The reason being, these people are special, but they're not more special than you and I. What happens is when you leave this level of consciousness, you go on to a universal consciousness. Now, the key is, how much of the universal consciousness can you have here and now that will be beneficial to you so that you can live a joyful life, so that you can be happy, so that you can focus and become the broadcaster of an amazing manifestation? Can you do that? Are you willing to do that? Are you willing to let go of old ways of thinking, of that you're very limited, that you have one life, or maybe you reincarnate, or, oh, that's it, you're just going to heaven or hell, or that kind of thing? It requires a lot of stretching of your consciousness and a lot of letting go of limiting beliefs that got you here. That's not to say that those beliefs weren't good, but what got you here isn't going to get you to the next level of consciousness. Christina, I've always known that there was more to this world, but was taught to keep my mouth shut. I'm now finding my true self again, and it hasn't been easy. Christina, I love this. I love this statement. I love all your statements, but this one really strikes home with me, and I want to talk about this for a moment. Hi, ASMR. So Christina, I've always known that there was more to this world. You're right, there is. And it's not just me. If you have eyes to see, you can see that there is. We now know that there are other planets, other terrestrial planets. We all understand that there's something more happening than what meets the eye. And then I was taught to keep my mouth shut. That's a hard one to talk about, because I understand what you're saying, and I have felt that way. And believe me, it takes everything I have to come onto YouTube, a global broadcasting, and to talk about those things, because there are people who don't want to hear you talking about that stuff. And like the thumbs down thing. It's hilarious when people do a thumbs up or a thumbs down, especially the thumbs down. It reminds me of the Roman Empire, where they're like, we don't want to hear this, boo. Like in the Colosseum days, how rudimentary, how archaic, and how barbaric to actually not be open-minded enough to allow somebody to express their thoughts and feelings in somebody who is loving and somebody who is trying to find their way, a truth seeker like you. Now, I'm finding my true self again, and it hasn't been easy. Yeah, because you are what feels like up against a tsunami of opposing thoughts. But I have some really good news for you. And the good news comes from Jesus, but I will share it too. And the good news is that everything that you see can be altered by tapping into the kingdom within. And when you tap in to your faith and knowing and intuition and love and the universal God within you, you can start projecting out into the world new and better manifestations. You are not powerless, you are powerful. And the more you have faith in yourself and your intuition and your loving being, the more you're going to see that outside of yourself. But the more we focus on who is not accepting us and who is doing the Roman Empire thumbs down, then if we get offended by what people say, what we're doing is it's not productive. Because if I listened to what people said, I'd never come back here again. I would just hide in my home and not disclose all these amazing things that have been gifted to me. So thank you, Christina. I understand. And I know it's not easy because most people aren't vibrating at that level of consciousness, but you found the right tribe. Okay. So Iran says, oh, by the way, thank you. I love listening to you. So interesting. Thank you. Iran says, do crystals like rose quartz actually heal? Well, let's take a look at this rose quartz right here that I have. This rose quartz. You could see it. I keep rose quartz all around me, in my purse and everywhere, because I love love, and I love the energy and the vibration of love. Not just because it's an emotional thing, but, well, yeah, maybe because it's emotional. It raises my vibration. And sometimes I even do, just to be personal, I even do take it to my heart. So if I'm feeling that I need love, and I'll put it towards my heart. And see, the reason I want to feel love is because I want to be the best version of myself that I can be. When I leave this experience, I want to be able to say, I tried my best to be able to expand my consciousness to love people in the best way I knew how. And I know you want the same. I know you want the same because you're here listening. So the vibration of my voice, the things I'm saying, they might repel you to a certain degree, but to another level is very attractive because that's who you are. This is nothing new to you. It's just something, an area that you haven't focused and put your focus on until now. Cheryl, I have always known I was different. So happy to have this place, to have like-minded openness. Oh, I just love them, Cheryl. You're so welcome. And from the moment I met you, and I know that you did a program that I offered. Actually, I'm going to do that program again, where we did manifesting and all that. Anyhow, I got to meet you on Zoom, and I want to let you know that you have the most loving energy, and it also reassures me too. When we group like this, what happens is we're raising the vibration collectively, and it brings more joy into our lives. And when we meet opposition as we move throughout our day, there's two things we need to think about. One, we have more love and joy in us, and love and joy vibration always wins. God always wins. Love and joy always wins. It always comes out on top. And two, we need to be conscious and ask ourselves, are we doubting something? Are we lacking some compassion, forgiveness, or understanding? Do we have fear? Are we being timid? How can we strengthen our being? If we have an angry response, you know where that comes from, right? It comes from fear. So if you're feeling fearful, it means you're feeling powerless. And why? If you're a co-creator with God, why would you even consider being powerless? I know. It's because you think you are that person in your body. But I'm here to tell you you're more than that person in the body. Everything that you see is a reflection of who you are. And I had that in a dream. Okay, so we're coming up close. I want to I'm glad you feel different. What you're noticing, you guys, Eviatar, Cheryl, that difference that you're feeling is your consciousness awakening on your spiritual journey of understanding the true identity of who you are and your being. And that is love, co-creation, and if I may dare to say so, the God within you is shining and recognizing itself. And imagine if we all did that. It would be such a relief if we could just relax and have a joyful life. It would be such a relief if we could do that. But instead, the media doesn't really help that too much. And we are, let me see this. Cheryl says, Shelley, love is a reflection of you also. This place is special. Sylvia's going, thank you. Thank you. So I did want to, oh my gosh, Holly K, you're here. Hello, Sylvia, and all my brothers and sisters. God's love is boundless and eternal, and I do feel the love of this channel. Love you too. Thank you so much to you and Kurt. Okay, so I want to talk about something. Somebody said to me, Sylvia, can you share your dreams? Maybe your dreams meant this, or maybe they meant that. And I'm here to tell you that all of us have gifts. And all of us have certain things we need to learn. And so one of the gifts I feel is the dreams. And when I have a dream, I don't think that I'm dreaming. And so I looked up, I asked Alexa what the meaning of lucid dreaming was, and it was being conscious in your dreams. And that's the exact definition that I can give to you when I go to travel to different dimensions or planets and stuff. I'm always very conscious of being there. And sometimes I even get scared. I'm like, if I'm here, aren't I back on Earth? Like, I will ask myself those questions, and then I'm very inquisitive, and I ask and learn. So I challenge you in the most positive, challenging way to see if you could, in your dreams, ask yourself to have a dream to experience something you want to experience, and then come back and tell me next week. And also, I challenge you to be the best version of yourself, and don't let people get to you, because when you're doing that, you're judging that aspect. And unfortunately, the more we judge, the more we get sucked into the vortex of that negativity. So that's the reason we shouldn't judge. I also challenge you to have gratitude for God showing her face to us every single moment of every single day. I want to ask you if you can find God in people, in animals, in things, and then think about your reaction to it after you see it as God. Don't take people for granted, because you never know where God is existing. So Karen said, yes and thank you. Oh, Prashad said, hello, Sylvia, and all my sisters and brothers. Good to be here with you. Much love to you from India. Oh, amazing. And I think it's really late there in India. Okay. And now, Aria says, can I ask you a question about angels before you finish? Could angels be living among us in human form? Yes. Yes. So, you know how they say each one of us has 2 guardian angels? Well, I thought about this some time ago, and some of you might have heard me say this, but we have angels on every level. My daughter, the other day, she was signing some papers to purchase her very first car. She's 27, and her father was on the right side, and I was on the left side. And we chose to be there for her at that moment. And as I was looking, I sort of moved away spiritually, my spirit self, and looking down at this moment of the guy with the contract, my husband, me, and my daughter. And I thought, if I didn't know any better, we are supporting her and beside her, and we are her guardians. Literally, we are her guardians. And we can act like angels. Thank you, Holly. Thank you. Oh my gosh. Holly, that was so generous. Thank you so much. Wow. I appreciate it, and the channel appreciates it. Thank you. And you know, if you're watching this and you think, oh, I can't do what Holly does, you can do a thumbs up, you can write a comment, you can do a sticker. Anything that how you want to contribute to the community is loved and accepted. Thank you, Holly, for the exceptional donation. Okay, so back where I was going with the angels. So we were acting as, and you can act like an angel. Whenever you support someone who needs you at that moment, you can be an angel. And then there are angels from our relatives who have passed on, those who we met and those who we haven't. And then there are higher guides, and then there are even higher guides than that. Like the person who I met, who I didn't know, who was singing on the other side and who taught me. We have a lot of guides and angels. We have to be open and receptive to them. The most important thing, if you remember anything, is to receive God, your guides, your angels. You need to receive them so that you can feel the love and joy and care in your heart. Ultimately, what we all want the very most is to be loved. You could challenge and say, well, we want things or money or situations to be. No, ultimately what we really want is love. Underneath that, we want peace and we want joy. And I promise you we can find that collectively and together. And I hope that you have a wonderful Saturday. And I'm done with the program. Thank you for the super chat, Craig. Very beautiful. Very generous. Thank you. I'm going to go through some of the comments here. Thanks for being here all the time, Craig. I'm going to read Lisa's comment, Craig's, and I'm going to actually answer. So if you have to go, I understand, but I'm going to answer some of these questions. If you want to stay with us, you can. Oh, by the way, let me know if you receive my newsletter. And if you don't, like a reminder, and I'm going to start writing more about my personal experiences. Oh my gosh, I forgot to tell you guys before you go. I reached 10,000 subscribers, and you know what that means? I could start doing behind the scenes stories, which any day is going to happen. So when I get an epiphany or a download or a stream from God, I'm actually going to share it right then and there on YouTube. So thank you for your support for that. Okay, I'm going to answer some questions. So Lisa said, I want to see my guide. How do I do this? Okay, the way to see your guides and your angels is you need to be open and be a receiver of it. So you need to ask, you need to say, I would like your guidance from the highest order and from God, and surround yourself in goodness when you ask those things. Raise your vibration to such a high, bright vibration that only good could come forth and through, and receive your message from your guidance. When our motives are not pure, it is very difficult to receive them unless they want you to get that message. Like, that's what happens in NDEs. There's no getting around the message that needs to get through to people. However, if you are seeking earnestly and your intention and motive is pure, I encourage you to ask and ask and ask again through your prayers and listen through your meditation. One more question. Love and admiration from many fans in Los Angeles. Thank you, Iran. And Jan says, thank you from Norway. Hello, Norway. Hello, Jan. Chris B, we are just watching one. Thank you, Chris B. I know what you meant there. And Eviatar, I wish to feel the angel in my life. Well, the angel is in your life. And in part, that's why you're here, because you were guided to hear a message to take you to that. You know, you could be anywhere else. You could be watching anything else on the internet or on television, but you're here amongst beautiful spiritual people. I truly love you. I truly wish the best for you, and I truly receive your love as well. Have a wonderful Saturday until next week. I'm very excited, and look out for the stories. And if you want to, there's a link where you can join my newsletter. Just go to my website. It's the only thing I have on it, so you can't miss it. So long, and talk to you soon. Thank you.